Hi and hello everyone, my name is Alex Horst, I'm a project specialist at Autodesk Media Entertainment, and I would like to talk you through some of the workflows on how to actually create game concepts and game assets in less time by using the 3ds Max Entertainment Creation Suite. Let me first give you a brief overview on what we're going to see within the next hour. So basically, we're going to rebrand a product, create a pack shot and some sort of simulation, as well as a casual game prototype, which is supposed to be running on a mobile platform later on. Basically, we're going to use the 3ds Max Entertainment Creation Suite, and this involves particularly 3ds Max itself, as well as Motion Builder and Sketchbook Designer. For the game engine, we're going to use Unity 3D, and we're going to hop into Unity itself. And I will also do a bit of a demonstration on motion capturing by while also using Motion Builder at the end. So the whole idea behind the project, which we're going to see in a moment, was that we wanted to challenge ourselves, and we wanted to kind of prove the point that the entertainment creation software in conjunction with a real-time engine can be easily used to market a product, to use that kind of gamification approach actually to really pitch a new product into the market, and it doesn't even have to be overly complicated. So the whole objective was to rebrand and pitch a basic product, but not taking like weeks of time for that. So producing a concept and a basic playable prototype within a day of work. So this whole thing took place as some sort of a role play, if you will. So I was pretending to be an advertising agency for one day, and I was pitching that product or that concept towards a customer. So I'm gonna run you through a different PowerPoint deck here, just to give you an overview on what I came up with. So this is the final presentation deck I put together after a day of work on the serial rebrand, on the game prototype, and so on. So just keep in mind, this is out of the perspective from the, well, from the advertising agency. It's supposed to be presented in front of you, the customer, who ordered us to do this serial rebrand and marketing campaign and so on. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to kind of back up the idea with some market research, some fictional market research really. So I said, okay, we went out on the streets and we asked the kids what they are actually into, just to give us some sort of a direction on where to develop the products towards to. And the results were quite interesting, because only a small amount of the kids today are into homework actually, so tidying up stuff and so on. Who would have guessed that? Then again, round about 18% are fully into unicorns, so that's an interesting approach for sure. But then again, it hit us when we saw that like about 70% of today's kids are into zombies. So this was the key indicator for the upcoming rebrand and marketing campaign. We decided to reshape the product, which happened to look something like popcorn, but well, we wanted to add some more zombie flavor to that, so we came up with that model proposal here, and we did a fill-up test to get into the right mood and see how kids would react to that. Alright, so the kids gonna love that for sure. So, but basically the next thing we had to develop is the name for the new brand, which was, well, easy enough. Yeah, just plain Brainballs. And after the name, it came up to the pack shot, which was simple as that. Whole brain guaranteed, healthy as hell, and all that stuff in there. So we had the new name, we had sort of the brand generated, but then again we had to develop the campaign itself. And the idea was basically that we wanted to print QR codes on top of these pack shots, and the kids in the supermarkets, they could scan up these QR codes and they would be fired over onto the, well, App Store or Google Play or whatever you want to call it, for the free Brainballs, the game. And we got a prototype running. I'm gonna start that in a moment. Right, so the basic idea here is being in a city, there's zombies coming after you, and actually you got some sort of a weapon here, and this is the Brainballs breakfast cereal, which you can throw onto those zombies, and this will make the zombies happy. That's the whole idea behind that. Brainballs, kids love Brainballs, zombies love Brainballs, kids love zombies. It's a bit weird, but yeah, off you go. And it's a bit of a fun approach. You can go through that city. Watch out for the zombies though. Yeah, give them some, make them happy. Quite nice. So yeah, can be a fun game. It's a prototype right now. We try to wrap up the marketing idea behind that. That means that we wanted to include a high score which can then be published up on the Facebook fan page of Brainballs. So at the end it should really make up for some sort of a nice marketing campaign, viral zombie game really. So yeah, that's the project itself, and this brings us to the core of the webinar itself, which is well, the making of the Brainballs and how you can utilize tools like Unity, 3ds Max, the Entertainment Creation Suite to literally pluck out a prototype of a game with some assets and so on within a very short amount of time. So for the whole making of process, just bear in mind that I wanted to keep down my efforts time-wise to, let's say, a maximum of 1 to 2 days. And so I started with Googling a basic brain model, a 3D model of a brain, to have this little brain balls going on and do the simulation of those brain balls popping down into the bowl. And there are numerous models out there. Some of them are on TurboSquid, some of them are on other 3D pages. Well, I ended up with a free brain model which I imported as a 3ds file, and I had to, well, clean it up quite a bit. So there are some lights, I'm gonna get rid of those, and the brain itself consists of multiple objects for the moment being. And well, as we won't get too close really, I'm gonna delete some details of that brain right away, and then I'm gonna collapse those multiple objects into one. So just select that, go into the utility panel and collapse that, convert it over into an edit poly to basically do the unwrapping after that. So to make it a bit shinier, we are just gonna apply a smooth operator on that, just to, well, smooth out the normals on that model. And then we would like to apply a texture. And to check the basic mapping, what I tend to do is, let me switch over here. I like those texture checker maps really. They are on wiki.polycount.net. There are multiple of those textures available. You can just drag and drop them over from the Windows Explorer and just throw on some basic UV sets. So well, the basic stuff won't really work for that one because I want to apply a texture paint process on that brain. So I really need to have unique UV coordinates for every polygon. Within the unwrap modifier, you obviously have numerous ways of dealing with those UV coordinates. I'm just repacking or reordering those clusters here. So one way of dealing with that is actually just select some of those clusters and apply standard projection modes or modifiers on those. So in that case, I could just do a basic planar projection along the axis, do a bit of a relax on top of that, and well, in that manner, click through all those different brain clusters here and just repack them. So I got a quite good or well, a decent or working UV layout with only little distortion. I've prepared that model right over here. So here I've a working UV layout, which has, as I said earlier, which has unique UV coordinates for the next process, which is texture painting, obviously. So if I hit the X key, I'm able to search through all the commands within 3ds Max 2014. So in that case, I'm just typing in canvas to fire up the viewport canvas texture painting dialog. So this is the inbuilt 3ds Max inbuilt texture painting, layer-based, fully Photoshop compatible texture painting thing. It's really lovely. You can assign different brush images and masks and do different strokes and behaviors and so on. If you have a tablet, you can connect that, have pressure sensitive painting going on. And as I said, it's real 3D painting, so quite powerful. The way I want to apply the texture here is basically I've just downloaded this image or this photograph of popcorn, of basic popcorn, and I'm gonna switch on the clone brush here, and the clone brush can actually use the whole screen as a source. So this enables me to, well, do an alt left click on that popcorn image to the right, and then just paint the texture on my 3D model right all the way through. Right, and this way, well, this gives me full control on about how the texture should be projected on my model, and it's very quick, very efficient. In case you're experiencing some sort of an edge bleeding or so, what you can do, you can also paint directly on the UVs in the 2D space. So just to draw out some sort of a background here on a new layer, and just give the background some sort of basic colorization, which kind of is the same as your texture clusters. And then again, in the viewport canvas dialog, what you can do with every layer, you can apply basic filters. So like blurring, just a bit like that, and then you're good to go. There we go. Okay, so as soon as you're happy with whatever you've painted, so in my case, I will just do a bit more tweaks here and there. Well, you can save that out as a Photoshop file, or you can flatten it down to a basic PNG or JPEG file, whatever you want. So if I do a right click, it will get out of the paint mode and ask me, hi, what you want to do. You have several layers in here. Do you want to save out a Photoshop file? Yes or no? In my case, not necessary. So I've just flattened that out. And the next thing we want to do is do the particle simulation of those brain balls, basically, falling into that bowl. So in order to model that bowl, let's get back to very traditional and old school spline modeling. So just sketching out that spline here and do a lathe modifier on top of that. And this is my bowl. I'll just crank up the segments quite a bit, and I'll love to get back into the spline mode and just tweak the general shape of that lathe modifier just right away. As soon as I'm happy with that, what I can do is either apply a shell modifier to give some thickness, or I can do a basic outline on top of that spline, and then I'm good to go. So game-wise, this obviously isn't a very nice model, but this is just for a sole render purpose, really. I'm gonna hide that bowl for the moment being, and I'm gonna fire up the particle flow engine by pressing 6 in 3ds Max 2014. So yeah, what we integrated here, as you probably know, is the M particles, the mass effects driven particles here. So you are able to have volumetric particles colliding with each other and so on. This is perfect for what we're doing next. So I'm just doing a shape instance here, so I don't want to have boxes colliding with each other, but I want to have these little brains being generated, and I'm just adding a bit of a scale variation to that, and maybe scale that down to 80%, and a variation of 35% on top of that. That's brilliant. If you hit play, it's kind of working, but it seems a bit odd, and this is just because of the particle shape is being calculated as a box right now. If we change that to being a capsule or geometry and so on, it will give us a much more decent or realistic result right away. So let's crank up the height of the birth grid, giving us more particles for the simulation, maybe even a bit more later on. We can change the position of the birth grid, so I'm just adding some slight variations right here, and maybe we can do a bit of a random rotation, so the start rotation for each particle should be randomized, and then we can try to hit the ball with that. So I'm gonna unhide it. As soon as we hit play, obviously no collision takes place, and this is just because particle flow doesn't recognize that ball right now. As a matter of fact, what you can do, you can add a modifier called pflow collision shape, and I've just activated that for that ball here. I need to have another modifier, the M particle collision, and need to add the bowl to that, and nothing happens, and this is just because I need to have the MP collision right after the world event, which has all the settings for the physics here. So some particles fall through, and this is just because of the subframe sampling is not high enough, but then again it kind of works. Let's try with a bit more with some more particles here. So just tweaking the height to that. Let's see how that works. Okay, not too bad. Maybe even a bit more. Well, we can tweak that quite a lot. We can add some basic bounciness and friction to that. I'm just getting over into the M particles world operator here. So in the advanced parameters you have the subframe factor, so cranking that up to maybe even just 4 will get rid of these particles which have been falling through the bowl at first. So this doesn't look too bad. I'm gonna hide the source object here for the moment, and maybe we can even have a bit more particles going on here, making it a bit more, well, a bit more interesting really. Or maybe let's just change the density for the birth grid itself, and this is defined by the grid size, so I'm just lowering that amount just a little bit. And well, this basically gives us more particles which can be assimilated right away. It gives us a quite good performance for the viewport playback itself, but then for the rendering as well as for the scrubbing in the timeline, it's getting more and more slow. So as soon as we are kind of happy and satisfied with the calculation itself, what we can do, we can cache that whole solution out, cache it to disk, and this is a new operator within particle flow in 3ds Max 2014. So we just define a caching file, so let's name that something like brains, makes sense, and then just let's hit update, update the current or time segment. It renders or caches through the whole timeline for now, writes down the files itself, and what's kind of important here is that you can use that caching file not only in the viewport but also in the rendering after all. So yeah, as you remember, we had this little sketchy animation from about those particles dropping down in that bowl. So let's just quickly set up a background here, maybe something like that, and we're gonna add some basic lighting just to do skylight for now. That should work. And then we're gonna add a camera just by pressing Ctrl C, so generating a camera out of the current perspective view. And well, and based on that, we're going to do a path constraint, a path animation. I'm going to add it or create an arc rotation, an arc spline. Maybe we want to have the camera travel from there to there. Okay, raise that up just a little bit. And then I'm gonna hit the X key once more, which is a lovely, lovely key now in 2014, as it really filters all the available commands in 3ds Max itself. So I was super quickly able to just bind that camera down to that path without traveling through any of those drop-down menus and so on. So I'm just tweaking the path itself just a little bit, and let's quickly check that animation. It's not like super special or super nice right now, but I think it will work for the time being, and just for that kind of, well, agency prototype pitch, really. Okay, and then for the rendering itself, as I said, okay, I will only have like 1 day to spend for that whole thing. What I want to do is do a Quicksilver renderer or rendering. This will take the nitrous viewport, and what's kind of nice about the nitrous viewport right now is it can also simulate the depth of field, relying based on the target distance and the f-stop itself. So as you can see here, it already calculates some nice or some decent depth of field right away, and within the Quicksilver renderer you can have exactly that same result with some ambient occlusion, some shadowing, kind of image-based lighting via the skylight itself. So I'm gonna hit the switch on the ambient occlusion, say I only want to spend like 2 seconds per frame, and then I can render out an image sequence and use that right away within my final animation, which I'm going to play out in a second. And this basically wraps up the creation process of the brain ball filling the bowl animation. The next step took already place in Unity, which I have opened up here. I got some of the assets down right there in the middle, but what I actually did, I started browsing the asset store just to find some basic models which I could, well, use within or for that project. And one great thing here was the Urban Construction Pack developed by Quantum Theory. So I'm gonna open that up right here. So right now it's on sale, even cheaper. It's a great offer of game-ready city assets. It's also shipping with a full demo scene, which I actually used for the prototype of the game. So time-wise, it was exactly what I was looking for. A brilliant offer. And then again, for the characters, for the zombie family, there's a company called 3D-RT. They are offering huge amounts of different game-ready characters, and the zombie cartoon family is being developed by 3D-RT, and it ships with all those 4 different characters and a huge amount of different animations and 3 textures per character and so on. So brilliant. And the Unity Asset Store itself, it's a great offer by, well, driven by Unity, but there are plenty or huge amounts of different packages available, not only models but also animations, environments, scripts, different plugins for Unity, and so on. Let me just quickly show you some of the assets within the Urban Construction Pack and how they are supposed to be used, or how they are supposed to work. So basically it ships with a number of different prefabs, so pre-built floorings and roads and styles for your city, and you can use all those different model packages to, well, just drag and drop that into your scene and build up your own city area out of that. Basically the beauty about all those packages which can be acquired in the asset store is that they are usually stored as an FBX model. So that means they are not like locked down to be used within Unity only, but you can also upload or, well, import that in your Autodesk package like Maya or 3ds Max and make changes to that scenery. So basically what I'm doing here is I just loaded up the demo scene of the oven construction kit. So for the prototype of the game, I literally just used that scene. I did some additional, or I threw in some additional models, and I did some tweaks to some of those textures here. But basically that's it. And as you can see, all this whole level is fully modular. Well, just to show you how fluent the interaction between Unity models and the FBX models here and 3ds Max can be, I'm just quickly importing an FBX file from the Unity package into 3ds Max. So just drag and drop the FBX file over here, and then I can do some changes to that model. So for the moment being, nothing too drastic. I just made the whole prop here a bit wider. And then I'm gonna export it back into the Unity project folder. And as I do that, Unity will automatically re-import that FBX file right away. So as soon as I hop back, just override there, hop back into Unity, you see that the model got updated right away. And this is a lovely, lovely connection between those products, really, and it's very important. It was really very, very important for me also that I could use all those FBX files from the asset store within 3ds Max right away. So that way I was able to do the pack shot and so on. So let's do that once more with that little post here. I'm just lowering it down. Just make some quick changes just to prove the point that it's really easy to go back and forth between those products. I'm going to override the FBX file here, and as soon as I got back into Unity, all those objects which were using that prefab, so it's just a clever way of referencing here, which were using that prefab were automatically changed, well, got re-imported into the scene. What I'm doing here is I just drag and dropped in a first-person controller which ships with a Unity package. So it's just a standard, fully scripted first-person controller. There's also a mobile package which gives you control for, well, touch devices like an iPad or an iPhone and so on. So the city it's okay, but it's not very well lit. But what you can do in Unity, you can do texture baking with Beast. So Unity ships with a version of Autodesk Beast, which enables you, well, to have global illumination going on and being calculated right out of Unity. So depending on the settings, all those static objects are then exported to Autodesk Beast under the hood, and the global illumination calculation is taking place on the texture baking for the light maps and so on. So it's pretty great integration. As you can see on the lower right hand corner there, the GI calculation is taking place in the background, and I can still navigate in the scene and do some small tweaks, nothing too special though, but I can still navigate in the scene and set something up. So for the Autodesk gameware, it might be interesting for you to know that it's not only Beast that Autodesk is developing, but we're also doing well, more complex gameware stuff like Autodesk Scaleform for user interface, Beast, as I said. We got Human IK, which is part of Motion Builder, as you know, pathfinding and behavior engines and so on. So all these gameware titles can be integrated and licensed for most different game engines. So if you are interested in that sort of stuff, make sure that you visit gameware.autodesk.com, as it says, like it says up there in the browser. And as I said, Unity has a version of Beast licensed and built into the product. If you want to have closer or more information on that, make sure that you drop by on unity3d.com, as it says up there. The light mapping can then be combined with real-time lighting, with real-time shadowing. It's a proper global illumination engine, really, with well, color balancing and well, immersive lighting and so on. I'm going to switch projects here, and this is the final project I've been using for the game prototype. I've added some vegetation here, some trees, some flowers to make it a bit more lively and lovely, and at the same time I also did the texture baking, as you can see here. So even if you have reflective materials, they will do color balancing. If you have emissive materials, they will so safe illuminated materials, they will light up the scene, and so on. So that's it for the light mapping itself. I also did some tweaks for the textures here, for the signs and so on. And what I've been using next is the 3D RT zombie family models, really. And then again, there's the beauty there is those are FBX files also, so I can import them back into 3ds Max. And I've been using some of these zombies to do the cover art and do the pack shot of the breakfast cereal itself. So in that case, we're gonna hop over into 3ds Max again and import one of those characters. So back on 3ds Max, we were ready to set up the pack shot rendering, or the image for the front of the box shot here. So we changed the resolution to some sort of an, well, portrait format, and we're going to merge in that zombie character. I chose to have the zombie mother on top of the box shot. So I'm just gonna import that right away. And I have to admit that when I was doing the bowl construction and the particle flow and so on, I was totally off any units. So I have like huge brain balls or popcorns popping down from the sky. So I had to, well, rescale or redo the whole simulation, or I had to rescale the character. So I chose to just get through the animation of that zombie here, and as soon as I had a decent pose for that character, like an eat animation, eat pose like that, I was going to just convert that to an edit poly. So I was getting rid of any skin modifier, or I was getting rid of the bones literally, and therefore I will be able to fully rescale and rotate and reposition that character. So let's just quickly get through some of the texture variations here. As mentioned earlier, 3D RT characters, or those zombie characters, are shipping with 3 different versions of the diffuse color of the texture itself. So I'm just checking those different versions here. This is a bit of a scary one, isn't it? So let's get back to that one, and also reconnect the corresponding normal map to that material. And then we're good to go. So I have chosen that texture, I have the pose for the character, and then I'm able to rescale or scale it up, get out of isolation mode, and all I have to do for the rendering for the pack shot, for the front of the pack shot now, is I would have to reposition that character. It's a bit unconventional, getting rid of all that bones and stuff, but then again, I had a bit of a hard time to import the FBX from Unity over into 3ds Max, so some of the bones didn't work as intended as soon as I imported that, but there's a workaround for that, so more to that later. But for the pack shot itself, I did it that way. So just quickly reposition that zombie lady. I'm in front of the camera right now, so I'm looking through the camera and just going to render that out quickly. I chose to render an OpenXR format, so I would be able to, well, to tweak the exposure of that image later on. And then just hitting render, and Mentoray will do its magic. It's not super special, not super sexy, but I just needed that image with an alpha channel and some ambient occlusion going on and so on for the front of that box shot. So the box itself should be used in the Unity game as a game asset, as well as for the rendering itself. So all I need to do is create a parametric box within 3ds Max for the moment, and then we're going to do the unwrap process, so the defining the texture coordinates. So the way I would like to texture that is having a continuous texture flow going on between the left, the front, the right, and the bottom or the back of the pack shot itself. So I'm selecting all those faces, and I'm gonna hit the unfold mapping command for that one. And then again, we need to define the mapping for the top and the bottom of that texture. So we just do basic top-bottom mapping, repack the clusters here, and well, to tweak those mapping coordinates even a bit more, we can select the front and the bottom, as well as the front and the top cluster here, and stitch that together, which will give us a quite nice UV layout right away. And then the final step after repositioning that cluster just a little bit would be to render those UVs out as a guide. So just we're gonna create the UVW template, and we're going to save that as a texture and import it into Sketchbook Designer to do our pack shot texture. So here I've opened up Sketchbook Designer, which is part of every entertainment creation suite, as is Sketchbook Pro. But the beauty about Sketchbook Designer is that it actually, well, it's layer based, and it can combine vector layers and paint layers. So you can draw curves, you can draw well, vectors itself, you can import, export vector formats, and you can do pixelated stuff. So the recommendation obviously would be to connect a graphic tablet to do proper painting within Sketchbook. But then again, every vector layer you create and every line you paint on that vector layer is totally non-destructive and very intelligent to manage. So you can refine all those curves, you can assign different custom brushes to them, can do fill modes within those lines, and so on. So we are going to use the Sketchbook Designer to actually design and lay out some of the pack shots, or the pack shot texture for the breakfast cereal. We're going to do that in a moment. So just give you an idea what you actually can do. You have all the, by the way, all the blend modes which you are used to use in Photoshop available here. So I'm gonna get rid of that layer for the moment, for the time being. Here I got the UV coordinates. It's a slightly different layout to what we've done in 3ds Max previously, but this is the one I've been using to actually generate the prototype itself. So I've just changed the blend mode. Here's our zombie lady, which can be, who can be scaled and adjusted quite nicely. And all those different paint and vector layers also have a 3D transformation, so you can use vector curves again to transform those paint and adjust those paint layers on a 3D and 2D grid and so on. So this is very important, especially if you have this kind of typos going on here and you want to have this cartoony style taking place. It's very easy to generate something like that within Sketchbook Designer. Alright, very nice. Brilliant. Okay, so let's say we would like to create some sort of a, well, gradient graphic for the background for that box. All we need to do is create a vector layer for that, and then we can create our curves. So for now I would like to draw one curve at the very bottom, because I would like to, well, draw a second one and do some sort of a fill between these two curves. Before I do that, I can select it. I'm going to define that curve to be, well, have a very thick border really. So this will function as one, well, just a bit of a circle color here, and then I'm gonna fill that. And then again, this is all vector based, so that means it can at any time it can be changed and altered the way you want it. So let's say we want to have like a light green and at the mid, and I want to have a hard gradient to the end. It's a bit tricky. Okay, just like that. And also the gradient itself can then be changed to be not that circular. You can even add more and more control points to that. So let's change that one to some sort of an orange color. Here I'm adding additional control points to make it, well, to adjust the shape itself, make it a bit more interesting, and maybe we want to have a dark reddish color for the outer circle. And there you go. And again, this can be changed at any time. You can change the thickness of the outer border in the color, obviously, and so on. It's all vector based. So, well, overall, I can say, okay, let's get just unhide the adjustments or the logos and the texts I did for the box itself. And due to the combination of the vector and the paint layer, this is a very flexible setup really, where you can change everything on the fly and have this non-destructive workflow all the way through. You can save out a Photoshop file out of that, makes it even more powerful. So as this is not a Photoshop on its own, you're just lacking a lot of functionality where Photoshop itself excels. But then again, those products can work together. You can save out the Photoshop files. You can use the Photoshop file as a texture within 3ds Max and make use of all the layers we've just generated. And then again, bear in mind that you get the Sketchbook Designer and Sketchbook Pro for free in every suite. So right now in Max, I'm just dropping the Photoshop file on top of that. And if you remember the viewport canvas, the texture painting, you can use that to actually open up the Photoshop file and have all those layers available. And even within a 3D environment, you will then be able to reposition some of those layers or rescale them and paint them then and so on. So I think that's a very nice combination between all those products, whether it is Photoshop on its own or Sketchbook to Max to Photoshop and so on. So it's really a wonderful back and forth going on here. So the next thing we would like to do is actually export that Brainballs box over into Unity. And if you remember, we were able to shoot that specific box right here. So I got the project open up in Unity, and I'm just selecting that box, and I'm going to export that into my Unity project folder as an FBX. And there are, well, two different ways of doing that. For that purpose here, I'm going to embed the media. That means that the texture, the material gets automatically generated in Unity itself. The other way will be manually export the texture first into the project folder and then export or import the FBX into Unity. So as you can see here, we got the new box up and running. We can generate colliders right away, so we could really implement that into our environment. I already took that a bit further, so what I did here is I scaled down that box to make it more fitting as a throwaway weapon type of thing, and I've added a rigid body to that, and also I've been adding or binding a particle system to it. So as you can see here, if I move the box around, there's a, well, quite simple particle tray following that thing along. So there's one script I need to assign to my camera, to my first person camera, which actually enables me to shoot these boxes into the environment. So all I need to do is I'm going to get that script over here. I'm going to drag and drop that onto my first person shooter main camera. And we're gonna have a look at that script in a moment. So for now, it's asking me for the bullet to, well, I just assigned the box as the bullet, and all what the script does is basically it's firing on my left mouse button and creating that rigid body. That box is being generated each time I press fire, and it's getting a basic velocity and some angular velocity, and it also is able to play a sound clip as soon as I hit left mouse button. So there we go. If I hit play and choose or press the left mouse button, it works right away. And I've also added a small script to these boxes, to the Brainbox itself, which lets each of those freshly generated boxes disappear after like 10 seconds or so. Okay, so after that, I already generated a navigation mesh, which, well, it's part of Unity, some sort of a pathfinding process right here. So these blue areas enable the NPCs, the non-player characters, also known as the zombies, enables them to move around in those areas, basically. And all those zombies have colliders applied to themselves also, and there's a bullet hit script which lets them switch animations from the run and follow animation down to the eat animation, and that's basically it. Right now they are trying to chase the advanced player, which is not that camera I had over there, but the advanced player starts in that corner down there between these two buildings, and as soon as I hit play, you will see that actually some of those zombies will start to come after that camera position. So in that case, that woman is close enough to that camera, so she tries to sneak up on us. There's nothing really happening after that. They're not that aggressive. They won't attack or so. I just didn't have time to include something like that. But then again, all those zombies are coming after you. So we got the zombies coming after you based on the navigation mesh in Unity, and they're using the animation which has been part of the asset store package delivered by 3D-RT. But let's say you want to create a bit more individual animations, but you don't have the time to keyframe everything out, and you probably don't have the money to invest in more sophisticated motion capture hardware. What you can do is use markerless motion capture based on consumer technology like the optic sensors by Kinect, PrimeSense, or the PSI, and also using stuff like the Wiimote and the PS Move. So basically how that works is there's software out there which supports these devices, and they hook up into, well, Windows in that case, and they hook up into Motion Builder, which enables you to retarget these motion capture data files onto your character. And we're going to see how that works in a second. This is just a solution which is, well, it's very affordable. I think the pro version of the Prequel is around about it 100 bucks. It has some limitations though. It's only supporting one camera at a time, and it's a live capturing device or live capturing solution. That means that the motion capture files which are being produced are probably a bit jittery, and they need to be cleaned up quite a bit in Motion Builder to make them really usable. Another solution is being developed by iPysoft, which is a lovely solution really, because it supports up to 2 Kinects at a time, which gives you a true 3D environment where you can jump and turn and do whatever you want to do within this like 2 square meter area. It's a very quick setup, but then again, it's not a live solution. You do the capturing, and then you have to do a bit of a post-processing within the iPysoft, which in theory should get rid of a lot of the jittering and gives you a proper motion capture file which you can then use in Motion Builder. It also supports, just on a side note, it also supports PSI cameras, which results in a higher frame rate capture, so 60 frames per second as you can read there, and a bigger capturing area. So just to give you an idea how that actually looks and how that works, this is the iPysoft recording software. I just, well, recorded that and spat up the video, and I'm talking over that right now. So I've configured one Kinect camera for that one, and everything I do is being captured here. You can do several takes within one recording session, and well, you're supposed to start and end in a T-pose, makes retargeting easier afterwards. And then you get in the iPySoft recalibration or post-processing software, where you can, well, actually move that basic character rig or that basic character onto the depth information of the Kinect sensor, and then it will be, well, you just mark in and out points, and then it gets post-processed, and the 3D character rig is being sort of fit and retargeted on these depth sensor data. So as soon as that's done, you can export it as an FBX file and import it back in Motion Builder. And this is, for me, it's the crucial part in that process, because you have these motion capture files, but you need to get it somehow transported over onto your character, and probably your character isn't the same rig and not the same size as the motion capture file here, but Motion Builder is able to build an interface, a connection via the characterization between those most different skeletons. So you can quite easily retarget the animation we see here and put that on top of the zombie character, for example. So I'm gonna switch over to Motion Builder here. So here I got Motion Builder 2014 opened up. As you can see here, I've already imported a motion capture file which has already been characterized. So the interface, the connection has been made to be able to retarget the full animation onto another character. In 3ds Max, I've imported the 3D RT Zombie Boy out of the Unity package. It has all the animations on there. If we wanted to tweak these animations, we can use Motion Builder for that. And most importantly, we can use the single click interrupt to send the whole scene here over into Motion Builder. So within Motion Builder itself, as we will see in a second, it's just exporting 2500 frames of animations here, so it takes a few seconds. But then again, in Motion Builder, we will be able to characterize that rig right away. As this is a character studio rig, a biped, we got a template for that, which we just have to drag and drop on that character here. So it has been fully characterized, and then we can, for example, we can plot that animation onto a control rig, which will enable us to use, well, the full body IK and animation layers to tweak the animation. So okay, let's say we wanted to use, as I said, use the animation layers. Here we got the full body IK working on that control rig. Let's say we want to have the kid raise up the hand between a few frames here, between frame 30 and 50 or something. So we're gonna raise the hand, do a key, do a 0 key there, and then in between that, it's a secondary animation on top of the mocap data or on top of the keyframe data underneath. So this is something we can do. What we can also do is actually use these the characterization of the motion capture file, which we have been seeing before. And I'm just pulling out the IK plan for the hands here and changing the clip to that motion capture file. If I hit play, you see, there we go, the boy walks and slips down just as seen previously in the mocap file. Obviously, we can also import the iPySoft mocap file, which I generated earlier. It's not the best result, really. It has some jittering feet going on, so usually you can get rid, with a better calibration in the iPy software, you can get rid of that. I've just quickly characterized that rig, but then again, it has this mocap file or this mocap animation on there, driven from the Kinect. So if we just change the animation, select the zombie, say okay, let's be driven by that IPy soft animation. And if I hit play, you will see, okay, it seems to work. As you can see in the mid of the screen, it says it's connected to 3ds Max, and this means as soon as we're happy with the animation, we can just hit update, and then it will pass that animation back over into 3ds Max. So this is a wonderful connection between Motion Builder and Max. Same way, Motion Builder between Motion Builder and Maya, and then again, all these characters and these animations can then be exported and taken over into Unity. So, and that's basically it. Wrapping things up for the time being. I got the navigation paths going on in Unity. I got the walk and eat animations of the zombies. The zombies are coming after you. You can hit them with a breakfast cereal to make them happy, so they got triggered into another state, a happy state, and they are not following you any further. And so that's basically the whole thing. So let me just quickly wrap up things and give you some additional links and resources which you can visit if you want to. So obviously we've been using the 3ds Max Entertainment Creation Suite with 3ds Max Motion Builder and Sketchbook Designer. It also includes this fabulous sculpting and texturing engine Mudbox, which we haven't covered today. But then again, on Autodesk, on the Autodesk YouTube channel, we got plenty of material on Mudbox itself. Check that out if you haven't seen it. Also, the Unity engine can be downloaded as a free version on unity3d.com, and we got the IPySoft and the Preckle motion capture optical or markerless motion capture system based on the Kinect, and the IPySoft can also do the PSI. Digital tutorials helped me a lot to get started with Unity, and it has also plenty, a huge amount of 3ds Max and Maya tutorials on there. So yeah, digitaltutorials.com, I can just say or just emphasize that's a good site or a good resource to get yourself up to speed. And then again, within the Unity Asset Store, we've been using the Urban Construction Pack by Quantum Theory and the 3D-RT Zombie family. Thank you very much for listening. If you want to follow me on Twitter, my nick there is AlexADSK for Autodesk. And again, thank you very much for your time and have a great day. Cheers.